Stress physically alters the structure of your brain. It is an active force, measurable on brain scans, that shapes human anatomy. This shrinkage happens on a cellular level. It is documented on MRI scans, yet the vast majority of people living with a stress-shrunken brain have no idea it is occurring. To understand what modern life is doing to our cognitive health, we have to look at the brain as a physical landscape being reshaped by its environment. The primary mechanism of this change is the HPA axis. When you perceive a threat, this system activates and releases cortisol into the bloodstream. In short bursts, cortisol enhances focus and energy. The system evolved to handle an acute survival threat, like a tiger. The response was designed to be intense, brief, and resolved the moment the threat ended. Your HPA axis cannot distinguish between a physical predator and a late-night work email. Both triggers activate the same biological alarm. This timeline compares ancient acute stress to modern chronic stress. Because modern triggers, like financial worry, rarely resolve instantly, cortisol remains elevated in the nervous system for days or months. When the HPA axis stays stuck in the on position, the chemical meant to protect you begins to dissolve the brain's architecture. This model shows the hippocampus, your memory and stress regulation center. This region is the first to sustain damage from sustained cortisol. Chronic cortisol stops new neuron growth and reduces dendritic branching, the physical connections between cells. Fewer connections lead to slower processing and impaired memory. The measurable impact is a 5 to 8% reduction in hippocampal volume. The second region affected is the prefrontal cortex, which governs decision-making, rational thinking, and impulse control. Sustained cortisol causes the gray matter here to visibly thin. This physical loss of density is the biological cause of mental fog and poor emotional regulation. Finally, the amygdala, the brain's fear center, does the opposite. Stress causes it to grow larger and more reactive, making it easier to trigger and harder to calm down. This creates a dangerous loop. Chronic stress builds an oversized alarm system, while simultaneously weakening the management center meant to turn the alarm off. The brain is neuroplastic. The structural damage caused by cortisol is measurably reversible, documented through brain scans showing the tissue rebuilding itself. Aerobic exercise is the most powerful intervention for this specific damage. Exercise increases a protein called BDNF in the hippocampus. BDNF stimulates neurogenesis, the growth of new neurons. In sedentary adults, 3 months of regular aerobic exercise shows measurable growth in hippocampal volume. Mindfulness-based stress reduction, or MBSR, acts as a second tool for structural repair. A Harvard Medical School study found that an 8-week NBSR protocol produced measurable increases in gray matter density in the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex, while reducing density in the amygdala. Through movement and mental focus, we can trigger the brain to rebuild the architecture stress eroded. Deep sleep is a biological requirement for structural maintenance. It is the period when the HPA axis resets its baseline and cellular repair occurs. Human connection provides a fourth tool by releasing oxytocin. Oxytocin directly suppresses cortisol activity. When you connect with safe people, your stress system deactivates biochemically. Regular nature exposure offers a fifth intervention, specifically reducing activity in brain regions associated with rumination. University of Michigan researchers found that nature walks produced a significantly larger drop in salivary cortisol compared to urban walks of the same length. Reversing structural damage relies on providing the brain with the evolutionary conditions it expects: deep restorative sleep, safe human connection, and regular nature exposure. Your brain is not permanently scarred by modern life. It is waiting for the conditions that allow it to rebuild. Exercise, mindfulness, sleep, connection, and nature are documented tools. They are backed by neuroscience and show results within weeks or months. Structural brain damage can be answered by structural repair. In as little as 8 to 12 weeks, the brain can begin to regain the density and connections that took months to erode. Give your brain the conditions it needs, and it will respond. Subscribe to Mind Unlocked. Next week, the dopamine detox: how to reset your brain's reward system in 24 hours.